Good evening and welcome to this special edition of Showtime TV. I'm your host, Omar Rashada. May 16, 2022 was a nightmare for the residents on the Adams Street apartments on 8th and Adams Street. And just to the blink of an eye, they were told that the apartments were not livable conditions. They had 372 violations, 27 units were forced to be vacate. And so we're going to do a follow-up show tonight. I have Lanita Brooks, who was there, who gave the news, who gave the hot stuff. She was there live, taping it all. If it wasn't for her, you know, the story wouldn't have been as big as it was. And we have Councilwoman Cabrera joining us. Ladies, good evening, and thank you for being a guest on tonight's program.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me as well.
All right, Lanita, I want to start off with you. I want to go back to May 16th, 2022. Who called you? How did you hear the news?
I heard the news. My brother actually lives in one of the apartments, and he called me on the phone and let me know that L&I was on the outside, and he was being told that everybody had to leave their apartments because they was being condemned.
Wow. So while you were there, I mean, I can only imagine, what was the reaction from the residents? I mean, just to be told with a blink of an eye that you had to vacate the premises. I mean, you get no notice. I mean, you're living a normal day. You're getting ready for work, getting ready for school. You're eating breakfast, and I mean, just this, you were right there. So I mean, what were some of the concerns and issues that the residents had?
Well, pretty much when they first got the news, I don't think everybody thought it was as serious as it was. I think they were just thinking, okay, L&I is out there, they're going to expect all the units or go in some people apartments, and we'll be able to go back in there in a couple hours. But as time went on, hours started going by, and here it is almost 5 o'clock now. So I'm like, and so now the cops is out there. They was out there for another situation that was going on. And then all of a sudden they start blocking everybody's doors. So no kids couldn't go back in apartments. No adults couldn't go back in apartments. So at first I wasn't even thinking about going live. I was just standing out there trying to support my brother. Mm-hmm. And, but stuff started getting real. Like people started yelling. A whole bunch of commotion started going on, and it was just getting real. So I was like, let me go live because they need some help out here. It's nobody out here. So that's when I just went live. And a little bit after I went live, Matthew Meyer had came out, Sherry Dorsey had came out, and just start talking to the residents, because when initially earlier when L&I came out there, they told them they put the notes on everybody's doors, told them that they had to leave, they couldn't stay there that night, but they left. They didn't say anything else. They just left, told them that, and they left. And as I noticed that they wasn't coming back. They wouldn't have came back. And if I didn't go live, they wouldn't have came back. Somebody called them to come back, and then that's when they addressed in public, like the public news stations, that what was going on.
Okay, so at what point did the landlord come? Because I read and saw where the residents had blocked him from leaving. So was he there first thing in the morning? How did
he
that
was
work
there?
out?
He was there first thing in the morning. He was there ever since I got there. He was there because I left work to get there, and I'm only at St. Francis, so it didn't take me long at all. But yeah, he was there the whole time, going in and out of the buildings with L&I, and showing them the inside of the apartments, getting into the apartments that was locked if he had a key to get in there. And he wasn't saying too much, not to the residents, until everybody started arguing with him, asking him what's going on. Are they going to be able to go back in there, and other questions.
Right. So Councilwoman, when did you hear the news? Because you live right there in that district.
Yes, I was actually, I got a phone call from Jessica from L&I to tell me not to go over there because there was a situation. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. She said, well, they told us that the councilwoman was on her way over there. So they know how I am. They assumed it was me, but it was actually Councilwoman Brigida Fields of the 5th District, because she has family that also live in the building. So when they said the councilwoman was on her way over there, they assumed that it was me. So that's how I found out. They said that it was a hostage situation going on. And I believe that's when Mr. Picorni was in his vehicle and the residents surrounded the vehicle and did not allow him to leave the premises because they wanted some answers, because that's when they were told that they couldn't go back in the building. So Councilwoman Fields had already been over there. And then that's when I hung up the phone and I called the mayor's office, the mayor himself, to see what was going on. He said, I'm sitting here right now with my chief of staff, with Tanny. We just got word that the buildings have been condemned because there is a structural issue. Apparently on Sunday night, some bricks came falling down from in between the alleyways, and they didn't evacuate on Sunday because they didn't have enough information. So they had the engineers, and LNI was there on that day, that Monday. And when the engineer was able to look up at the beams, they saw structural damage. They saw that the joist, I guess, was rotted, wasn't strong enough to hold the buildings up. And that's when it became, a dire situation. We've heard of buildings collapsing without any warning. I think like a week or 2 weeks before that, a house collapsed onto the street in Philadelphia. And we all know what happened to that condo in Florida. So yeah, they did they decided to listen. We don't want the next day to come and find out that this building came crumbling down and that people were in there. Picorni has a long history and record of, being a slumlord. That's what he is. And the LNI has had many challenges with going in and out of those buildings. People have to call in order to be able to get in there. He's never let them into the basement. He wouldn't let them onto the roof. I saw that in the court proceedings, that he complained that the city illegally got on one of his roofs on the Woodlawn property. I mean, there's been a lot going on with this building and these properties. So I'm not surprised that it came to this. What hurts my heart is that people who are innocent, who pay their rent every month, and it's not even a cheap rent, it's expensive, that live in deplorable conditions. And I feel that many of them don't report the landlord because they don't want to lose the only place they have to live. Maybe they don't have other choices. And I've met a lot of people have come forward who used to live in Picorni properties, and they said, we couldn't get out of there fast enough because this man doesn't do anything. So he's been doing this for a long time. And it's just, again, heartbreaking that this is the way that it went down. And while I was on the phone with the mayor, I said, there's a tornado coming. What is going to happen with these folks? They can't just be out on the street in the middle of a storm, rain, and tornado. Well, the mayor said, well, the good news is that at least the tornado is not coming. But yes, you're right. We have to find housing. I said, call Matt Meyer and see if he has any room at the Hope Center. And that's what he said he was going to do. Then the conversation ended. I had to be somewhere, and I circled back that evening and came. And by that time, most of the people had left. There was a few people that came back to get their their belongings. They were allowed to go back in to get their belongings. She asked the police officer. The police officer's sergeant said, yes, you can go back in. And the lady had a ride and she got the last of her things. She was one of the last people there. So I wasn't there during the time that Lanita was there, when everything really kind of, we could say, all hell broke loose. So I came after the fact, because unfortunately I couldn't get out of what I was doing. So that's when I found out.
Right. So Lynette, I want to go back to you because you were there when County Executive Matt Meyer and State Rep Sherry Dorsey Walker and Councilman Michelle Harley. What were their reactions? What did they say to the residents? Were they responsible for the residents going to the Newcastle County Hope Center? Were they responsible for the residents, some of the residents going to the Fairview Motel?
Matt Meyer was responsible for the getting the people, whoever wanted to go to the Hope Center over there. Or the choice for Fairview came in from, it was another lady out there that came out there. I'm not going to say her name, but she seen it live, and she had came over and she had volunteered to pay for a couple, I think it was 8 or 9 rooms for a couple of the residents. And from that, and she was called Fairview. So Fairview had said they had 9 rooms available at the time. So, and that's what she was going to pay for. So I think that's why they initially went with Fairview. because
Okay.
this lady was already paying for 9 rooms over there. So they just asked the other residents, told the other residents they was going over there too. But from my understanding is that city council really didn't know L&I was going to do this that day, because I've sat in, I was in on a Zoom meeting, and then I had talked to Trippy also, and Trippy was saying that they didn't know that L&I was going to go and shut these apartments down that day. They had no knowledge of this. So my thing is, if they already knew that they had planned to do this, then even though y'all gave AJ some notice, or was supposed to have gave AJ some notice, which is the landlord, then if they seen AJ wasn't doing anything, I think that the residents still should have been contacted in some way, sent emails, letters or something, but they was just like, they didn't know anything.
So
But
here's my
afterwards
thought.
they heard that AJ had notice about these apartments.
So let me ask you
And
this.
I think most of the residents, they was fine with staying there. Yeah, AJ's a slumlord, but they was fine with staying there because they called that home. Like, nobody out here is letting people come into their apartments or their units without doing credit checks, without doing criminal background checks, not having to pay 3 times the rent where you're staying, or have to have a certain credit score to get in there. So they got away with that with AJ. All he wanted was money.
Right. I'll get
Can I
back.
interject?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Okay, everything she said is correct. And that's why, and it's not just for Cornies. There's a lot of different residents around the city of Wilmington where people live in conditions that they should not be subjected to living in, for that very fear. They don't want to be evicted, or for all the reasons. It's so hard. You got to put first months down, last months down. There's a reason why AJ doesn't take Section 8, because he knows that the federal government would have to come in, and there's no way they would approve any of those homes for them to live in. But I just want to go back to what Lanita said. Number one, yes, you're right. Nobody knew that the buildings were going to be condemned. L&I didn't know that the buildings were going to be condemned, because when they came out on Sunday to secure whatever happened when those bricks came tumbling down, until those engineers went through and inspected those properties, no one knew they were going to be condemned, including the mayor. So no one was given any prior notice, because that's what an emergency is. Emergencies is something that happened on the spot. Now, a lot of people argue. Even I said, well, couldn't they have just stayed one more day? Couldn't they just have had preparation? And this is where L&I and Jessica, who works in L&I, said, Councilwoman, do you think that I would be able to sleep at night and live the rest of my life knowing that if these buildings were not condemned and these folks were allowed to stay and find other arrangements, and one of those buildings came crumbling down in the middle of the night? You're talking seniors that live there, children that live there, people that live there, and there was a catastrophe. How do we as a city, as leaders, account for allowing people to remain in a building that an engineer said was structurally unsafe? How do you do that? So no one had prior notice. L&I didn't know that the building was going to be condemned. That happened that day. It was at 1:45 p.m. when I found out, when she told me that they were being condemned, and when the mayor's office was notified. That's when that happened. Just talking about the timeline. But everything that she said about people having a place to live, yes. And it's a shame that they have to live in these deplorable conditions, because they feel like there's no other options. And affordable housing right now, it is so hard to find. And quite honestly, I don't believe those buildings were that affordable anyway to begin with. Even I pay less rent than they do, and I don't live in that crap. So there is a challenge with housing right now.
Right. So when I was watching the Facebook Live show, I see One Village Alliance Executive Director Sandra Pitts. She was advocating for the residents. I think the next day, she and some others that support her organization were bringing the residents food. Lanita just talked about a female sponsoring 9 hotels, and Matt Meyer, County Executive, putting some of the family members in the Newcastle County Hope Center. So my question is, what did the landlord do? Where did he place people in different places? Did he find houses? I mean, because isn't it, Councilwoman, the landlord responsibility to place these people, or if I'm wrong, just let me know.
Well, I also spoke to the Attorney General's office. So there is legislation, and I read it when I read through the article that said that when a building is condemned or something like that happens, that for X amount of weeks, that it's the landlord's responsibility to place them and assume the debt. Now, that was taken to court, and the I guess, what do you say, the determination that was made by the Attorney General's office says no, that the landlord actually bears no responsibility in placing these tenants. Now, the landlord, I understand, was supposed to return their rents because they paid rent for that month. And going back to the Hope Center and Fairview, there was a good Samaritan that paid for the Fairview for people to stay there. However, when I questioned the county executive, I said, did you guys not have enough room at the Hope Center? He said, no, Maria, I had 21 rooms, but some people opted to go to the Fairview versus others went to the Hope Center. I also understand from other volunteers like Stacey Henry that there was no point of order. There was no point person, like maybe even the emergency management director. No one stood and said, this is the plan. This is what we're doing. This is what is being afforded to you. People left. They went with friends and family before there was a plan in place. And, you know, Councilwoman Harley and I have been talking about this. She is putting legislation in place. There has to be a plan when disasters happen. We saw Hurricane Ida. What happened with that? That was another shit show per se. And now you have this situation. Did we not learn our lesson the first time around? So things have to be in place because emergencies do happen. So moving on from that, the Hope Center did take some people. Others went to their Fairview. The Fairview is not even a vendor that the state of Delaware uses, but those folks have remained there if they choose to remain there. And the Hope Center has rooms available if folks wanted to leave there. I understand some people have even left the Hope Center and gone to the Fairview because there's less restrictions. But that is what happened from what I understand. And Mr. Percorni needs to be held accountable in so many ways. I understand that right now they're engineers. They are working on those properties. They sealed them off. He says he's keeping them. He's not selling them. He's going to fix them and bring them up to code. But it's not just these buildings. I want to make clear to you, because he's an equal opportunity slumlord. He has properties in Trolley Square. He has properties in Woodlawn. And because of this incident, now the city was able to go into all of his properties, inspect them all, and they all have violations, and he has to fix every single one of them. So you see, it wasn't just the people on Adams Street. Even though the other people were not put out of their homes, this man is in violation. He does not do what he's supposed to do. He collects money from these folks. He doesn't invest in those properties. He does the bare minimum to bring them up to code. That's how he gets away with this. He should be put out of business permanently.
Go ahead, Lanita. You want to say something?
Oh no, I said that's true. He should have been put out of business a long time ago before this even happened. I've known him when I was younger. My dad used to rent from him, but of course, you know, I was around 16. So, but anyway, yeah. I was just saying, okay, so it's one of the residents now. She's at the Hope Center. And I just called for her the other day to the mayor's office because she wanted to switch from the Hope Center to Fairview. And I was told that she's not allowed to because of, I don't know, whatever they trying to do. They want everybody to stay where they're at. But she's just saying it's cheaper because at the Hope Center, you can't cook your own meals. You can't bring in electric skillets or anything. You have to either eat what's there or order out. So she's just saying it's expensive just to be there. Transportation is not good because they're not on a bus route. Her husband works at out Newark somewhere, and where the bus lets him off at, it's not safe. So she was asking to be put at Fairview just for the convenience, and just it'd probably be a little bit cheaper on her because they don't have to order out as much, and they don't have to pay for a ride for the husband to get back and forth to work, to and from work. And I was told she wasn't allowed to. My brother, the first night, he didn't go to Fairview or Hope. He went to, we put him up in a Red Roof Red Roof Inn. And from there, and they accept agency vouchers. But after that one night, the mayor's office didn't want to pay for him to be there. They told him to go to Fairview.
Okay,
So we was
Can I
like,
add, so I'm glad I'm hearing this, Lanita, because I've been trying to get down to the bottom of what's going on. So today when I called and spoke to Daniel Walker from the Department of Health and Social Services, my understanding is that there's transport available for people who need to get back and forth. I believe that Stacey Henry said that they had actually worked with DART to get people bus passes, but you're right, the Hope Center is not on a bus route. So I'm just wondering, do those people have access to the transport that the state is providing? Now, I know that the city of Wilmington is paying, and we have paid up to $23,000 for the people that are at the Hope Center, because it's not, just gratis. I didn't know that they were forced to stay at the Hope Center against their will, because I know some people felt that it was better to be at the Fairview because it's closer to Wilmington, closer to where they live, and to get back and forth. But that there is transport available is what I was told, that the food bank is delivering foods, not only can or box items, but also prepared meals that can be heated up in a microwave. I understand that they're not allowed to have skillets at the Fairview either, is what Miss Henry said, because of a fire hazard or something like that. Because that's what I was saying. How can people buy groceries when people normally buy in bulk and they have a big refrigerator and they have a stove to cook? Like, folks can't be buying food all the time. So I was told that the food bank wasn't delivering food anymore. And today, I found that that's not true. They're still bringing the food over. I don't know if they're also delivering food to the Hope Center. So I'm, you know why I agreed to participate in this show tonight? Because I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear from the residents. And on Friday, just so you know, Cafe Gelato is going to be doing some hot meals, and they're going to be dropped off to the Fairview for those folks, because I'm also out here trying to see what other resources we can get to them until they're in their own home. And I've been in contact with Miss Stacey Henry, who called me to let me know the shortcomings. So I'm glad that we're doing this, and I'm glad Lanita's a good friend, and she knows I am straight up just like she is. We can always talk with each other, communicate with each other. We don't keep anything from each other. We keep it real, because I am a person of the people. And if there's things that need to be done and I got to be pushing to make sure they get done, I will do so. And that's why I'm glad I'm here today, to hear these backstories. But I did do my research today to see what has been done to date. And I thank you for your input, and I'm going to chime in with the information that I have.
So Lanita, from your brother and some of the other residents that you talked to, did they get reimbursed for the rent from Mr. AJ?
I'm not the lady I'm in contact with. She's not on it. She's not on this live, so I'm not gonna say her name. But the lady that I'm in contact with, one of the residents, she was over there last week asking AJ for her money, and he was saying that he had to go somewhere for it, but she never got it, because she was like, at first she was trying to hold out to see if they was gonna be able to go back in their apartments, but from her understanding, my understanding, that won't happen for a while. So she was just asking for her that month's rent and her security deposit, in which he's not giving that back. My brother, no, he didn't give anything back to anybody. I do know one resident was out there. I guess it was a lump sum of money. He asked for his money back. He was supposed to go back the next day to get it. I don't know if that happened, but I was there when that was talked about.
I saw where one gentleman, he paid the landlord $7,000.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. Yes.
I hope he got his money back.
Yeah.
That's a good amount of money. I mean,
Yeah.
now in terms of the Fairview, you said that they have vouchers that's paying for them to stay there. That's not out of pocket for the residents. Just for clarification.
The state is paying for the Fairview.
Okay.
The city's paying for the Hope Center. And if Mr. Percorny has not refunded that money, I swear to God, I will be on the phone with the Attorney General's office tomorrow. I will actually text her this evening. So I understand that the state gave Percorny, I don't know why they would do that. When this all happened, he got some kind of monies to give back to the residents. I have Councilwoman Harley, who has been working on this. And as I mentioned, she's introducing legislation so that we have things in place. So she's trying to give me a little bit of information on that via text. Let me see what she has to say. And I don't know if you're getting comments. The state had just paid for Corny $27,000 for a lot of people's bank rent when this happened. Oh, so some people had gotten back rent from when maybe through COVID or whatever. So this man collected a lot of money that he has not refunded. So he needs to be taken to court for a lot of different reasons. Now, the other thing I will add is that the state, along with the city had a resource event at the Emergency Management Center so that people would have, number one, social services. What do they need? People's food stamps cards were reloaded because they had food in the apartments that obviously they couldn't access and would have gone bad. So what happened is that DHAP gave Corny $27,000 for people's rent, maybe from COVID or whatever. And when all this happened, he has just gotten that money. So that's money he needs to give back as well. That's crazy. But there are legal ramifications, and these residents should all make sure that they come together and do a class action suit.
I was going to ask that class action suit. Right. So Councilwoman, when you were in the city councilwoman in the past, not current, but you were there before, and you had spoke about putting laws in place against slumlords, if you will. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes. Well, my first session, we enhanced the nuisance laws by some legislation that I added to it. So that was the disorderly premises was really more about the people engaged and the disorderly behavior. The nuisance property laws already existed. Now, currently, as the council member and the chair of L&I and the Real Estate Housing Committee, what we are doing, we have made it so that landlords who do not fix the properties, if they have a violation. So the first step is this: the person who lives there has to call L&I, right? And they have to let them in. Because imagine your home. Do you think an inspector can just show up to your house, Omar, and say, oh, knock, 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 let me in, I'm going to inspect? No, that's your home, whether you rent or you own it. They can't just come into your property like that. So the first thing that has to happen is the resident who is experiencing issues has to call L&I. L&I comes and does the inspection. They see that there's some, infractions. Now the landlord is given the infractions. They have 30 days to fix it. If they don't fix it, they now will be given a fine. If they don't pay the fine, that fine is going to double up. And within 4 months, we can now take them to court, because instead of going through the criminal process where you go before a judge and that takes 8 to 10 months, and then the judge slaps the landlord on the wrist and says, don't do that again. And they pay and they fixed it. So now they pay the fine, or they just fix it and they get off the hook. But in the meantime, that person's living there with whatever it is, a leaky roof, a leaking faucet, and they pay for the water, by the way. That's 8 to 10 months. So now the city can take the landlord to court in about 4 to 6 months instead of a year to a year and a half. And they can take that property to sheriff's sale if they do not fix it. Now, you know that this is a property, is an investment. People are not going to lose their homes to sheriff's sale because they didn't fix something. So they will fix it. So now we can take actions to get them to fix these properties quicker. That is what I introduced when I came into council last year, and it passed. Many people call it the blight bill. The second part of that was the vacant properties. We haven't passed that yet, where we increase the vacant property fees so we can get our hands on those vacant properties that they're not doing anything with. So that's what I've been working on. And housing is my passion, because I think we need to stabilize our neighborhoods. If we stabilize our neighborhoods, we will see a decrease in crime, because that crime happens in the neighborhoods that are most afflicted. But people are living in deplorable conditions, and they cannot be afraid of retaliation. There are laws to protect them. If anybody out there is living in a place that your landlord has not fixed and you got problems, call me directly. I will have L&I go in there. And this is the issue. These folks they didn't want to make noise. They were afraid. They didn't want to lose their home. I can't blame them for what they did or did not do. I blame Corny.
So Lanita, have you been aware of any complaints in the past at the Amnesty Departments regarding this landlord?
No, I mean, I've known AJ, like I said, since I was younger. So I do know that he's a slum lord. He's called a slum lord. And but my thing was when my brother said that he needed an apartment, I knew where to go. I knew where to go if he had one available because, like I said, he don't want no background check, no criminal background check, and he don't want the 3 times the rent, and the credit score don't have to be 600 plus. So the apartment that we went to go look at, I mean, from us just looking at it, it's livable. You know, we could do some work to it to make it even look more better, but it was livable. Like all the stuff that happened afterwards, like as far as his ceiling leaking and stuff like that, that wasn't there at first. I don't know if they painted over or what, but it wasn't there. It didn't happen until after the winter time came around. And then he said that he couldn't go up on the roof. He couldn't have nobody go up on the roof over the winter time. But as soon as the weather switched up, which, you know, springtime came, he would have somebody go up there and look at it. But that didn't happen.
Okay, so Councilwoman,
Omar, can I just add about the roof real quick? If I can just add to that. You
sure,
know that since the L&I, when they finally got up, and you know how many times that man just kept patching that roof. He never fixed that roof. He never replaced it. That's why the leaks got into that beam, into that joist. That is what caused that brick to crumble down. And that had been cemented over. Can you imagine the catastrophe if that did not happen when it happened on that Sunday? That all those joists were rotting away. Those are the main structures of those buildings because he never fixed the roof.
So let me ask, so Councilwoman, people say this man been a slumlord for about 20, 25, 30 years. How did he get away with it for so long?
Well, he hasn't gotten away with it because he's been shut down before. So the city actually, I did the research, the city actually shut him down a few times when they got him in the violations. But you know what I have found? That the landlords,
You say he came right back though.
And he came right back. But if they fix it, they can come back. So this is the thing is, Omar, they have protections just like we have protections. These landlords are business people and they know how to finesse the laws. And Mr. Picorni, I'm sure, has several attorneys on lockdown. There's some people that won't take his business because they told me that he's called them and they won't take his business because he knows he's dirty. So the city has been on top of Picorni. Let me tell you, 3 months before this happened, I was sitting with the mayor. We were doing an update on, you know, what we're doing with the housing laws. And I said to him, you know that he's got boarding homes going in there. People pay to sleep on couches. He said, Maria, if you can find anybody at all that is willing to go public and speak, because you're not allowed to have boarding homes in Delaware. Please let me know because I'm looking for anything at all that we can shut him down. I said, but why hasn't he been shut down? Because I was complaining about how horrible that block looks. And he said, Councilwoman, the inspectors go in, he does the bare minimum, but he passes inspections. That's the whole thing. And if the residents don't call us, the inspectors can't go in. It's not for lack of trying. He is on the radar. He has been on the radar for a very long time. It's been years that he's been doing this. Okay. And here, let me tell you one last thing. So we try to introduce legislation, I believe Councilwoman Darby or someone introduced legislation that you could not renew your business license if you do not allow L&I to come in and perform an inspection if you suspect that the properties are not being maintained. And the law department came back and told us that we can't introduce that legislation because that would be deemed unconstitutional and it would not hold up in a court of law. So even as today, we're still trying to find ways that this doesn't happen again.
Councilman, you mentioned the mayor on several occasions. However, yesterday, in WDL Report News, I saw, to paraphrase what the mayor said the city of Wilmington has done its job, done what they had to do, and it's not the city's responsibility to help people, displaced people, find homes. So I found that quite intriguing. So I don't know if any one of you two want to comment on that statement or if you saw what was said in WDL report.
I'm glad, yeah. Maria, if you want to comment first, you can.
Okay, so I'm sorry I did not hear that report. Now today, in speaking with the state, my understanding is the purview of what is deemed that they're supposed to do versus what they're doing are two different scenarios. The state of Delaware is who oversees housing, not the city of Wilmington. Just like with this situation, the Department of Health and Social Services, they provide certain things, but they don't have to provide everything. They do enough to secure it. So what I was told today is that technically the state of Delaware, when there's an emergency housing situation, they will provide housing for up to 30 days and no more. However, there are people right now still receiving assistance for 600 days that have had issues with housing. So the state is kind of going above and beyond. So a lot of what is being done, even with these residents, what I have been told, and it's not just the mayor or the city, is that this is not under the purview of what they do, or to pay for the storage or these extra things, but it's being done because we are a small community and people come together to help each other. But the mayor is correct in the sense that the responsibilities of housing go through the Delaware State Department of Housing. We don't have that in the city of Wilmington. And the state has the money in the budget for this, and they have the housing authority, which Eugene Young oversees. And there is money that is being set aside for these folks. And that application that they go through that usually takes a while, they are meeting and they have made sure that they go quickly. So tomorrow there is a meeting with the city, with the state, and with the housing authority, and they are going to discuss these apartments. And I don't want to say too much because we don't want to get people's hopes up, but there are some apartments that are being rehabbed right now that we can get people into, as many as 12 units, and that they can get the help from the state to pay for their first month's rent and for their deposit. And then they're going to continue to get assistance for up to 18 months. And that is being finalized tomorrow. So I wish this interview was happening on Thursday so I could give you more information, but they are working on solutions to get them into housing. But again, the housing does fall under the state.
Okay, Maria, I'm glad you broke it down to what the mayor was trying to say, but he didn't really say, because the way he worded it here was like he really don't care. He really don't care about the people on Adams Street, and he don't care about the situation they in. That's how I took it. Like that, it just sounded disrespectful to me, the way it came out on WDL. Like he just don't care. So I'm glad you broke it down to who's responsible for what and who's not responsible. But I just feel as though he shouldn't say it's not their job.
I understand what you're saying, because sometimes how things come out. Listen, I was just reading about Jill Biden talking about how, things that are Latino, and when she said something that it's become as common as breakfast tacos, somebody took that offensively. And all she's saying is that there's things that we have contributed in our cultures that have now become very common because we're a part of this fabric. And I read that before I left the office. And, when you say things and you're a public figure, you just never know how things are taken out of context. And I know that the mayor cares. And the fact that 3 months ago, before this happened with his buildings, we had this discussion about the buildings. We had the discussion about that block, because we discussed the corny. We discussed how we can possibly get in there and fix these buildings. I just can't believe that people live like that. We have to do more to help them. And that was the discussion that we had. So I don't believe that he doesn't care, because when I called him that day, he was so distraught. He's the one that called Matt Meyer and got him out there. And I know that when you guys arrived, he wasn't there, but he was there as well. Everybody mentions everybody that showed up, but the mayor was also there. Everybody came out. But I can understand how that can be misconstrued. He needs to do better with that.
All right, definitely. I rode by Adams Street several times since the incident, and as a recent, I rode by and I see big giant fences surrounding the apartments. And just to be honest with you, when I saw that, the first thing that rang in my head was, what if the landlord doesn't fix it? He purchases the property, and they turn the property into townhomes, cost $250,000, and the G word came up, gentrification. So I don't know if I'm being far-fetched, but that could be a concern for some people. What if they tear it down, rebuild it to something else, and there's no opportunity for them to go back to their place of residence. I mean, is that a possibility that it may happen or not?
Well, let me speak to that, Omar. As of right now, Pokorny does not plan to sell the buildings. He says he's fixing them up. Sadly enough, we would rather see them in the hands of someone else. There are some companies and that have said, listen, we're willing to buy the properties. We're willing to put the sweat labor in there that is required to bring them up to code and to have nice places to live. They would continue to be rentals because rentals does make money in Wilmington at the end of the day versus, just selling a property. You make the money once and you walk away. However, Pokorny has no interest in selling those buildings is what I was told. And when people talk about gentrification, it's interesting because some people have called me and said, oh, they're going to gentrify 800 Adams Street. And I asked the person, I said, do you know what that word means? And they said, well, no, not really. I said, so please stop repeating the narrative. It'll be 2 or 3 decades before any gentrification happens in Wilmington. I live there in the 900 block of Adams Street. I am right now suffering with a cough for over a month that no one can seem to find out what's wrong with me, and it's not COVID. My son's asthma levels have risen when he never had even that much asthma. I now have been diagnosed with asthma. I live across from 95 in the 900 block of Adams Street, and I can't get the hell out of there fast enough. I've lived there for 7 years. I'm in the process of buying a house. My deal just fell through last Thursday, so I'm brokenhearted. Every morning when I wake up and I blow my nose and I cough, black stuff comes out of my nose and my mouth. So it will be a cold day in hell before anybody with any kind of resources is going to want to live in the 800 block of Adams Street. Let's go back historically to what happened to Wilmington. When 95 was built through the heart of the community, it divided our community. The people who could afford to leave left Wilmington, and who was left behind? The West Side, the Hilltop, and West Center City. And who lives there? The poorest of the poor, the people who live on Section 8, the people who can't afford to live anywhere else. That is where crime is the highest. Nobody wants to live next to a highway. And you know that when I ran for mayor, I made it very clear that West Center City was the forgotten city. Those are the areas that we need to help and fix up. That's why I'm a supporter of putting that cap over 95, because that will improve the air and the breathing. But right now, no. Right now, that's not happening. The people who live in the apartments where I live, they pay very low rent. And then you have the people in Trinity, they have a little bit more, nicer homes over there. They pay a little bit more, but they're not exactly right across from the highway either. So that's not going to happen. And the developers that everybody keeps talking about, the corrupt developers, they're not interested. They don't do residential, for the record.
Going back to May 16th, when the residents were forced to leave their properties, that's trauma. And looking at psychosocial stressors, one of the psychosocial stressors is being forced or unwanted, to be forced to move to another place of residence unwanted, or to lose your housing. So the first thing that came to my mind is, some of these residents may need individual counseling because of the trauma. They may be depressed. You're also looking at post-traumatic stress disorder. I was actually in my house, and 3 weeks later to a month, I'm at a motel. I mean, I can't believe this is going on. So I don't know if you ladies would be in support of maybe the city or the state or the county. I'm not sure who would be responsible for maybe helping these residents, for those who need it, get counseling services. Your take.
I want to hear from Lanita because I want her to confirm, because her brother is one of these folks, if these things are going on. So my conversation today, again, with Daniel Walker is, there are mental health services being provided. There has been counseling being provided. They're making sure that everyone has the social services that they require and the legal services as well, so that they can get compensation, whether it's a class action suit. So these things are in place. There are weekly phone calls every week. There are 2 people that the state has assigned specifically to work with the residents of 800 Adams Street, and that those people make weekly calls. Some folks take the calls, others do not, and others do not respond or return the phone calls, but they do weekly wellness checks to make sure, is there anything that you need? Is there anything going on? Now, I don't know if people are afraid to say anything because they don't want to, they're afraid they're going to get put out of the Fairview or the Hope Center. I want to hear from the residents that I'm going to personally be there Friday when that food is delivered from Cafe Gelato, because I want to meet them. And Councilwoman Harley has been out there. She's spoken to them. She said, Councilwoman, I haven't heard any complaints from anybody right now. They seem to be comfortable. It's not the best scenario, but the beds are clean. They have a microwave. They have a refrigerator. No one complained to me directly. That's what she said to me today. But I'm listening to people like Stacey Henry, who's a good friend and I trust, and she's giving me information. And I know Lanita. So if Lanita says to me, Maria, Councilwoman, this isn't happening, I want to know about it. I want to know about it.
Yeah, not that I know of. I know in my brother's situation, he hasn't heard from the only time he spoke with anybody is that Thursday night after everything happened. They was asked, I'm telling them they can come down there and get bus tickets and Target Walmart cards or something like that. That's the only time he's spoken with somebody, but he hasn't received anything from as far as like seeing if he need to talk to anybody, a counselor or anything, because I've talked to several, like I have a list of numbers of the residents in my phone. So I went down the list and I was calling all the residents and I was just getting an update, a status of where they are now, or if they're still at the Hope Center, Fairview, or wherever else they're at. So I spoke to a couple of the tenants and they were saying that they're stressed out, they're stressed, they're depressed, and like they just feel as though they're on their own now. They feel as though that everybody was out there that day and then afterwards it just died down. And I said, I'm right with you. I'm my brother's advocate because, you know, he's my little brother. I'm going to make sure he's okay. That was my last words to my dad. JR is going to be fine. And to my last day on this earth, he's going to be fine. So I'm going to make sure that these residents is fine as well. But no, I mean, what I'm getting is people are depressed. They're not happy. And I understand that. They're not in their own spot now. They went from turning their own keys to swiping a card to get in a room, whereas though it's not only two people and there's more than two people and everybody that was in that apartment is inside the motel room now. So it's stressful. The kids, they didn't lost almost their whole summer. Can't go anywhere because some of the places that they're in, they have a time frame that they have to be back. So, I mean, it's just stressful. It's just stressful. I know my brother called me crying. Like it seems like he's starting all over. This was his very first apartment. I mean, some people might say that's what you picked as a first apartment, but yes, that's what he picked as a first apartment because it was his. That's the first thing that he came across since my dad been gone.
Well, no one should be judging because you know what? A home is a home. And sometimes folks, you know, they choose what is available to them at that time. Just because you start there doesn't mean you're going to end up there. So no one should ever shame him. Now, Stacey Henry, who has been working with the residents as well, as she just, you know, reached out to me and said, Maria, I'm happy to work with this. But one of the things that is happening, and I know that they may not know, and it may not be public, is that they are having weekly meetings about this as they continue with these efforts. We wish that they could happen quicker, but like that meeting that's happening tomorrow, I really hope that we can report some really good news. Like maybe on Friday, when I go over there, I could say, hey, guess what? This is the timeline for these apartments that had been rehab, and that there's going to be this many units available that people can get in there. So from what I understand is they're going to accelerate the process so that they can get the rental down payment assistance and help with the rent, that they're going to get 18 months of rent paid wherever they go. But we got to find the housing. There's housing that has been made available in areas that are away. For example, Middletown. There's landlords in Middletown that said, we have X amount of units and we can take people. But the people that live, you know, that are there, they're like, we don't want to leave Wilmington. We don't want to be out in Middletown. This is where our kids go to school. This is what's going on. We don't want to leave. So they have every right to turn down the housing in Middletown if they don't want to go there. They have turned down locations because it's not accessible. In the city of Wilmington, we have a housing crisis. We do not have enough affordable housing. The mayor's office, they have called the Landlords Association. They've reached out anywhere, say, do you have any units? Can you please make it a priority that we can get these people housed first, and we will help with the rent and with getting them there. Money has been raised to pay for their items in storage. The state's not going to pay for that. We might need to do a fundraiser because as of September, the money is gone the storage is paid up to September. So we want to make sure that people don't lose the few belongings that they work so hard to get.
Right.
So listen, we all got to work together on this. And maybe we just need to have a little task force to work along with those people that are doing this so that we in the community, people like you, Lanita and Stacy, are aware of all the details so that no one feels like we're not getting help. And let's make sure that people like your brother and others who have not either gotten those calls or maybe we don't have the right numbers on file, that they get the mental health counseling, because this is very stressful. Very stressful, and any other resources that they need that they may not be getting.
Lanita, I seen where some of the residents have pets. Were they taken to shelters? Have you heard or what happened with the pets, or did they go with their owners? Because I know the shelters in the motel want to have pets, so I was just curious.
I think they do though. I think they allowed to take one. Yeah, I seen a dog.
Okay.
And I know at the Hope Center, I think they was allowed to at least take one of their pets. If they had more than one, I don't think they took more than one. But I know I took one of my brother's dogs myself.
Oh, okay, got you. Okay, got you.
But can I speak on DHAP?
Oh, sure.
DHAP, yeah, I understand, Maria, what you were saying about DHAP. DHAP is available to people as far as the rent and utilities. But my whole thing with DHAP is even though you fill out an application, once you get to the landlord part, they're saying go fill out the application as of right now. But once you get to the landlord part, you can't go any further if you don't have a landlord to put there. It's like you're at a standstill because they need a landlord. They need somewhere. It's nothing. So they can't really fill out the information until they get a yes from a landlord. And are they like the residents? You're saying go apply for DHAP, but are their applications going to be pushed to the front because you still have to wait a certain amount of time for these applications to be approved?
Well, this is what's going to happen is that meeting that's taking place, because I got this directly today from the mayor's office. In that meeting tomorrow with the people that they're meeting, and Eugene Young, that's who it was. Eugene Young is part of that meeting tomorrow. It has been agreed upon that these applications, because they do take a long time to get approved, are going to be speedily approved, that it's going to be done quickly, and that the people who are the people that are going to rent to these folks, that they're going to hear it and be assured directly from the state that they are going to get the money, whether they have it right on the day that these people move in or not, that this is the agreement, that there is a commitment that the state is going to help with the down payment, the first month's rent, and for 18 months, they're going to pay rent. And that's coming directly from the state to those landlords for this particular building. And these conversations will be had. If any of those residents find a home separately that they learned about, the same thing would apply to them. So yes, this is being put on an emergency basis to the top of the line, to answer your question, because I asked that question specifically.
Okay, and do you know, like, how long do they have in the Hope Center and the motel? Are they just going to like give them a time frame to find something, or is it going to be ongoing until they just say they're not paying it anymore?
As of right now, it's going to go ongoing, because if they were to stick to their rules and regulation, they would have been put out after 30 days. Like I mentioned earlier, there's somebody who's still there because of COVID and housing and just situations that people go through for 600 days. They have provided, it's almost become permanent housing for those particular individuals. But this is coming straight from the Department of Health, and Social Services. They're not going to be put out. We're going to make sure that everybody has a place to live.
Okay, thank you.
You may mention about meetings. Has there been a meeting for the residents on Adams Street, a meeting where they all can come together to find out what's going on? Has that been established, or will it be established that any one of you two are aware of?
No.
Oh, wow. So
No.
they don't know what's going on, this
Well, Lanita, the people that are at the Hope Center and the people that are in the Fairview, there's communication with them. However, remember, there were a lot of people that left that went to stay with friends and family. So if somebody's out there sleeping on a couch at a friend or family's house, I'm not sure, I cannot speak to this, but I know that we were diligently trying to get the names, even if they had to come from Picorni. We needed to know every resident that was affected by this catastrophe, every name and contact information, because when people left to stay with friends and family, and they're not at the Hope Center, or at the motel at Fairview, then we need to be able to communicate with those people as well, because they also need housing. So if for some reason we're missing anybody, Lanita, that you're aware of, let's sit down and talk about this. I know Stacey Henry has also diligently been trying to do the same to make sure that we have all this information. So anybody that needs help is getting it. And when they did have the one meeting that they did have was that resource meeting that they had at the Emergency Management Center, where the residents were asked to come, make sure that they're applying for any and all assistance that's available to them. They got their food stamp cards reloaded because of the food, obviously, that they bought that went bad on the apartments, and counseling and these things. So if folks are not taking advantage of this, let's make sure that we really do our job, that they have this information. And I will work with you, Lanita, and with Stacey, and with Councilwoman Harley and Councilman Fields, because, all of this intertwines with our districts. And of course, I'm at large, and we want to make sure that people get the services that they need.
Okay, so ladies, as we come to a close of the program, I'm going to give you ladies a couple minutes each to say any closing statements. And if there are those who are watching that want to hook up with you too and want to work with you in terms of helping the residents, or the residents may be watching and they want more information, please feel free to submit your contact information. So I'm going to go off. I want to lead off with Lanita Brooks, and any closing comments.
Yeah, like you said, my name is Lanita Brooks. If anybody want to contact me as far as trying to get help, and maybe I can put you into get you in contact with Maria, Michelle Harley, or Porter Center, or any other agency that's giving help out for the residents on 800 Adams Street. And I also want people to know that I was asked to say that LIHEAP is also giving people assistance with light bills. So if you need your light bill paid off, so you can get into another house or whatever that's going to keep you from getting it, LIHEAP is paying people's electric bills off.
Joy, you have their contact information?
They can go to Rose Hill Community Center, and I do have a worker. Her name is Sheila DuPont Nichols.
Gotcha. All right. And what's your contact information? You want people to call you, or you want people, is you on Facebook, email?
They can reach me on Facebook. I'm on there as Lanita Brooks, and I'm also on Instagram as Lanita Brooks, or they can call me at 302-353-7456.
Okay, Councilwoman.
Well, first, I want to give thanks to everyone who has come together to help these residents. There are so many community organizations and individuals, too many to mention, that have come together to raise money, to help them, to get food, clothing. Our own city council, we donated $15,000, and Nemours has seen those efforts. They got suitcases filled with things that they could use, toiletries, and we are here to help. Everyone has come together. People like Lanita Brooks, Stacey Henry, all these organizations, and One Village Alliance, all these folks that have come together. Now, I also want to add that first, yes, let's all make sure we communicate, that we help anybody out there who's not getting these resources. The Hope Center, Matt Meyer, and of course, like the city, they're paying for that. The state is paying for that. They don't have to do it. As was mentioned, certain things are not in their purview, but we are a small community and we stand there for each other. The other things, the restaurants, anybody out there who would like to provide a nice cooked meal, a hot meal for the people that are staying either at the Fairview or at the Hope Center, please contact us. Let us know so that we can make those meals available. We thank you. And as Stacey Henry mentioned to me, the money for the storage is going to run out. So if they're able to donate, I'm not sure who is getting the donations, but Lanita, if you know of where donations can be made to make sure that it gets into the hands and to pay for that storage or anything else that they need, let's do that. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for their efforts. And again, Cafe Gillette is going to be out there Friday, providing a warm meal, and all the others that have done so. And I'm going to diligently still go out to the restaurants and make sure that at least once a week, somebody is donating a nice meal from a nice restaurant so they can eat well. And that's what I'm committed to doing, to working with everyone and to make sure that not just for Corny, but any landlord out there in the city of Wilmington, let me tell you something, you better get on your game. You better start fixing up these properties, because it's a matter of time. As long as I'm in office for the next few years that I have left, I'm going to work together with my colleagues on city council to make sure that our housing laws are stronger and stricter so that people are held accountable and that folks can live in decent, clean homes, not homes with mold, not homes that are falling apart. They're taking
Rashad,
money, they're taking your rent. They should have a safe and clean place to live.
Rashad,
Oh, yes.
one more thing. If anybody wants to donate food or anything to either place, the Hope Center or Fairview, Chandra Pitts is taking names and organizing all that. And she also said something about summer camp for the kids that's at the hotels or the Hope Center in contact with somebody with summer willing to take the kids for a couple hours for summer camp.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
they have transportation too. So Chandra Pitts at One Village Alliance.
Okay, great.
And Omar, I didn't give my contact info. People can reach me at the city council office, 302-576-2140. That is the number. They will make sure that they get a hold of me and my legislative aide, Tracy Owens. So please, please reach out with any information that you have. And if you suspect, and if you want to file a complaint against your own landlord, or you know of a property that's not up to par, but you're afraid to do it for retaliation, please allow me to be the bad guy, because I will be happy to look into it and make sure that these wrongs are corrected. And thank you to you, last but not least, thank you to you for giving us this opportunity to have this discussion.
Mayo and bring it in.
Oh, no, definitely, no doubt. Actually, it was Lanita. She sent me a message and asked me to do this show. So I thank her for giving me giving me the idea of bringing the show together. So if you ladies want to come on again for any follow up, we can do a part 2 anytime.
Right,
my girl Lanita and her sister Sharita, those are the twins getting it done.
All right, everybody, please like, subscribe, and share. And thank you for tuning in to Showtime TV. God bless. Have a safe week. All right, ladies, take care.
All right,
Thank you. Good night.